In this video, we're going to look at example 1, where we solve a quadratic equation using square roots, and we are going to introduce the imaginary unit I. So part A, they're asking us to, how can you use square roots to solve each equation? And what I want to do for part A is I'm going to use square roots to undo the square unit. So we're looking here, this squared. To undo that, I'm going to use a square root. Taking the square root of x squared, that would just be x. Let me change this color here. There we go. That would just be x. And then the square root of 16, here we're going to have positive and negative 4, because both 4 times 4 is 16 and negative 4 times negative 4 is 16. So these would be our two solutions. Now in part B, the only thing different here is my constant, that term is now negative, and this is where we're going to introduce an imaginary unit I. So same idea to start. You're going to take the square root of each side. So this left side would just become x. The right side I'm going to rewrite as the square root of 9 times the square root of negative 1. The square root of 9, in this case, we're looking at positive and negative 3. And then we're going to leave the square root of negative 1 there for a moment. Now, that square root of negative 1, what's happening is we have this here, that square root of negative 1. That's the imaginary unit known as I. All right, anytime you have the square root of negative 1, we're going to replace that with I. So in part B, what will happen here is this is going to become x is equal to positive and negative 3, and instead of the square root of negative 1, we're going to replace that with I. So this piece here becomes the I value, and then that would be my solution. All right, so these are, anything with the letter I is related, referenced, or yeah, we'll say referenced as a complex number. And throughout this section, we're going to get into more detail on what we can do with complex numbers. We're going to look at operations of them, simplify expressions, and solving equations. But the key thing here that you really want to know is this square root of negative 1 is the imaginary unit